communities are vulnerable to these times of awful public policy decision making. So I would like to turn now to Kenita Seeley, who is with the Policy Council of the Black Women's Health Imperative. Kenesha, please come forward.
Good evening. Thank you, Dr. Chavis, for that introduction. First, I'd like to thank Elroy Saylor and the Healthcare Quality Network for inviting me to speak on this very important topic of environmental racism and justice. I'd also like to thank my fellow panelists for their passion and commitment to the issues. The Black Women's Health Imperative is a national nonprofit organization dedicated to advancing health equity and social justice for Black women across the lifespan through policy, advocacy, education, research, and leadership development. The organization identifies the most pressing health issues that affect the nation's 22 million Black women and girls and invests in the best strategies and organizations that accomplish its goals. The environmental justice movement was started by individuals, primarily people of color, like Dr. Chavis, who sought to address the inequity of environmental protection in their communities. This movement still continues as the Black community is disproportionately affected by environmental issues. This is evident as we recognize the environmental crisis and racism that is being perpetuated against the African-American community by placing a mega landfill in Cumberland County, Virginia. Today, the climate crisis and aging water systems across the country present a danger that disrupts our lives and endangers our health. People of color are disproportionately bear impacts to climate, from storms to heat waves to pollution. Also, too many communities, especially low-income and communities of color, suffer from failing water infrastructure, polluted water supplies, unaffordable water rates, and many other water issues that make it even more difficult to survive in this time of chaos and crisis. The health and well-being of low-income communities and communities of color is inextricably tied to the environment in which they live, work, and play. This is a special concern to BWHI because the impact of climate change and environmental pollutants in our air and water have a direct effect on a Black woman's maternal health. The increasing temperatures of the climate crisis undermines a woman's capacity to have a healthy pregnancy and deliver healthy babies. A connection between exposure to heat pregnancy and adverse birth outcomes like preterm birth and low birth weight is increasingly supported by studies. According to one study, the higher temperature or the longer the heat wave, the greater the risk. Black women have the highest risk of preterm delivery from heat. Furthermore, Black women are 3 to 4 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related causes than white women. Similarly, preterm birth weights are worse for Black women than for white women, and low birth weight is twice as common for Black mothers as their white counterparts, even when socioeconomic class is considered. Neighborhoods where residents are more likely to be people of color are often hotter with fewer trees and concrete roads, and buildings less likely to have a working or affordable air conditioning and access to clean water. The hotter temperatures and environmental factors exacerbate the existing maternal health disparities for Black women. Clean, safe, affordable water is essential, however, it's not accessible to everyone. Contaminated water impacts the health of pregnant mothers and children. Bottle-fed infants who consume mostly mixed formula tap water can ingest high levels of lead, which leads to developmental delays. When a woman's exposed to heat, to lead, and other metals in water during pregnancy, she's more likely to miscarry or deliver a preterm baby. Sadly, African-American children are 3 times more likely than white children to have highly elevated blood levels. Environmental health risks, such as lead or arsenic contaminated drinking water, can be especially damaging when exposures take place during prenatal and early life development, when sensitive systems like the brain are especially vulnerable to even low-level or transient chemical assault. We should not have a 2-tiered system where the wealthy have access to water that is clean and safe for their families, while low-income communities must accept water and wastewater systems that pose risks to their health and environment. These are urgent times. All voices are needed to demand policies that provide everyone access to clean water, put in place measures that protect low-income communities from the effects of climate change, and put environmental justice at the forefront of all we do. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kenita. That was very on point, and thank you for your perspective from the Black Women's Health Imperative. We now go to the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. I started out in SCLC, working as a youth coordinator for the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And we're glad to know that the Southern Christian Leadership Conference is still alive and well and championing the cause of civil rights in Virginia. And the representative of SCLC in Virginia is Brother Kevin Kimball. Brother Kimball, please come forward.
Thank you, Dr. Chavis. Appreciate it. And good to see that the SCLC's lineage is still alive and well. I'm glad to be a part of that. I'm actually the DC Bureau Chief for the SCLC. So I run the DC Policy Shop, and I'm the Executive Director of its Global Policy Institute.
Very good. Thank you, my man. Well, you got some big responsibilities here in DC. You know, I think, as I quoted Dr. King in the beginning, but tell us from your perspective about why it's important for us to focus on this situation in Virginia.
Well, as you accurately stated, you know, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. So we start there. And Dr. Charles Steele, who's the president and CEO of SCLC, has made it his driving mission over the last 5-6 years as we've approached the 50th anniversary of the Poor People's Campaign and have passed that. The SCLC's biggest effort now is advocacy. So we've engaged in this fight because SCLC's the leadership is focused solely on making sure Black people advocate more fully for all issues of injustice. So it's not, and it's at every level. Dr. Steele has been pushing people to go to community meetings, go to city council meetings, go to utility board commissions. The whole idea is that we have let too many things happen without our input being felt. So this issue in Cumberland County is just an example of the fight that we need to fight. This, as you know, like I said, in your part of North Carolina, you had the same issue 30 years ago. So we have not successfully turned away or discouraged people from treating our communities this way. And it is something that we have to fight for. So we've put Dr. Steele's put all of his resources, all the SCLC resources into this fight. Or fights like this. He was just down at a protest in Alabama on something very similar. So our goal is to highlight Cumberland County and hopefully have a successful resolution to this problem. I mean, it would be great if we could actually have a victory where we could show the power of the people to influence the process. We are at a very critical part of our democracy. So we have our hands full here in DC, but we have our hands full everywhere. I mean, there's no place in the country where African Americans aren't suffering. As Kenita accurately stated, you know, the numbers for us are very bad in a lot of ways. I mean, we just have to fight, and that is our goal. And so I don't need to talk about the details. You've got a lot of experts here. Our goal is to motivate and engage everywhere we can on every issue, not to let anything go without our input being felt and our influence being felt and brought to bear.
Absolutely. Thank you, Brother Kimball. And we certainly I want to know that the National Newspaper Publishers Association, we are joined with SCLC and with the Women's Initiative Health Imperative on this focus, because I think we're going to have to rally a broad coalition of forces to challenge the injustice in Cumberland County. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And give my best to Dr. Steele, please.
I will. I'll tell him.
All right. God bless. Now we will have from the Frederick Douglass Virginia chapter, the brother who's providing great leadership for the Frederick Douglass organization, Brother J.R. Gurley. Brother Gurley? Is Brother Gurley with us, Brother Kimball?
Yes, sir. I'm here, Dr. Chavis.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Yes,
Welcome.
sir. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate being here. First, I just want to say what an honor it is to be involved in this movement. Just from my end of Virginia, I can tell you that it is picking up a lot of momentum. It is turning a lot of heads. And whenever a community comes together to impose upon their government their actual desires, we call this freedom. And so I'm especially honored to be taking a part of that tonight. Thank you, Dr. Chavis, Elroy, the Healthcare Equality Network, and all of my fellow panelists. I just want to say, it is no secret that that Black Americans have gotten the short end of the stick in this country for centuries. Our communities have long dealt with lower access to healthcare, as one of my panelists pointed out, higher rates of police brutality and lower than average incomes. And so it really comes as no shock, as I pointed out in this op-ed, that we've been dealt with an unfair hand when it comes to the environment surrounding our communities. We're seeing now in this beautiful state of Virginia, I believe Virginia has some of the most beautiful landscapes in the entire country, that now they're being tarnished by an injustice yet again. And I want to point out that currently the Virginia Department of Environmental Quality, the DEQ, is in the process of reviewing. Now, this is a 1,200-acre mega landfill, and it's dubbed the Green Ridge Recycling and Disposal Facility, as we pointed out. I also want to point out that Virginia already has 60 solid waste landfills that are operating for 134 counties. And so at some point you have to ask yourself the question, when is enough enough? And we are taking exception with this particular landfill simply because of where it is and where it's exactly located. And as some of you may know, in 1917, Booker T. Washington, and a philanthropist by the name of Julius Rosenwald, they set out to create schools that were specifically designated to educate Black children who would not be taken in anywhere else. And these establishments, these schools, these educational facilities, they were called the Rosenwald schools. And recently they were listed by the National Trust for the Historic Preservation as some of the country's most endangered places. One of those schools is the Pine Grove Elementary School, and it's located right there in Cumberland County. And the owners of the landfill are planning to build a site right across the street, thus polluting the air of this community and restricting access with dump truck traffic, construction, and everything else that goes along with it. The Pine Grove School, which was recently named a historical landmark, is special to many people, and to see it being mistreated in this way is not only disheartening to me, but as I pointed out before, it's disheartening to other fellow brothers and sisters of our community and Black community. And so, as we all know, that race in this country is the single biggest indicator of whether or not you will live near pollution. And so this mega landfill, with its air pollution, its traffic pollution, noise pollution, it would only serve to really perpetuate this problem. And so that's I don't want to take up the entire time, but it's just some of the things that I wanted to point out, Dr. Chavis.
Thank you, Brother Gurley. As you know, a famous quote from Frederick Douglass is that power concedes nothing without demand.
That's exactly
right. It never has and it never will.
Yes, sir.
And certainly the powers that be that you've cited in Virginia, they need to be challenged. I may have to roll up my sleeves and get my 69th arrest in the state of Virginia. I hope it doesn't come to that, but we do need to protest. We do need to call out those powers, because a lot of times, Brother Gurley, they try to do it in anonymity, the hidden hand, moving on people who they think are powerless. So the whole purpose of this workshop and this town hall tonight is to call them out, put the facts out there, and then we all go to work to push back. I don't want the people in Cumberland County to think that they're going to stand alone. We got to embrace them and stand with them in this case.
Absolutely. Dr. Chavis, having access to water is a fundamental human right.
Absolutely.
And something like this is going to be an undertaking that's going to threaten the pure water supplies for the
for years to come. For years to come,
as was pointed out. Yes,
absolutely.
Sir.
Thank you again. And Brother Gurley, when we get to the question and answers, I need you to close out for me if you kind of field some of the questions that come in on social media.
Sure, absolutely.
All right, thank you. Our next speaker will be from the Sierra Club, and that's a major group. I used to work with the Sierra Club back in the 1980s and into the 1990s. It's a great organization. We're glad to have Gustavo Angeles. Gustavo, are you with us so you can represent the Sierra Club on this vital issue in Virginia?
Unfortunately, Gustavo, if from whatever reason, and I'm not sure what the reasons are right now, we'll deal with that later. But there's some miscommunication, so I'm here. I'll serve in his place.
Oh, thank you so much.
I'm Lynn Godfrey, and I work for the Sierra Club, the Virginia chapter, and I'm honored to be here to represent the Sierra Club in this space to proclaim, environmental justice for Virginia communities, especially the Cumberland County community, not only the Cumberland County community, but communities across the state that poor people and people of color in Southeast Virginia, disproportionately with frack gas pipelines, Black communities have disproportionately bear the burden of environmental injustices for the energy infrastructure build out. So we are glad to be here. Gustavo has worked diligently at the grassroots level with the Cumberland County community, and the two sisters that will represent communities here tonight know him well. So we do represent and operate from a grassroots perspective, and we are in solidarity with that community, and we are hoping the best, and we are fighting and struggling strategically. And one of the ways we're doing that is at this particular time, the Army Corps engineer has a open comment period, which we need to make sure by the 21st, which is Wednesday, that we have as many comments to them as possible. I'm trying to get that link up with one of the participants that's on the call, Lashmi Pajoy. If you have that link, if you can provide us with that link. If not, I'll try to find it and get it before the night is out. But pivotally and strategically, that's where we are. We need to get as many comments to the Army Corps engineer as possible so that they understand that the community right in Cumberland, as well as communities outside, is in solidarity with them to make sure that this injustice that's going to pollute Cumberland County's water, dishonor our heritage sites, and all the rest will not happen. So with that said, I think, I'm not sure is that up yet. But anyway, we would try to get that up from the Army Corps engineers, and ask every one of the panelists to make sure that you spread that tonight, tomorrow, as wide as possible, so that we can get those comments into them. So thank you very much.
And thank you for representing the Sierra Club, and give our best to Gustavo. And thank you for your leadership and all of the Sierra Club. And one of the things we found out at the beginning of the environmental justice movement, the more we work together, the stronger the overall movement for environmental justice. So we're very pleased that the Sierra Club has joined this a very vital issue, not only in Virginia, but across the country.
Absolutely.
Next, we will go to Muriel Branch, who is from the A.G. Miller Mayo Dungy Pine Grove Project. Is Muriel with us?
I am.
Thank you, Muriel. Thank you.
Thank you for your pioneering work in the environmental justice and environmental racism arena. I am Muriel Miller Branch. I'm a 6th generation of Cumberland County. My family helped to build this particular community that we call Pine Grove community. And the earliest homes were built by Blacks in the 1880s. And as we all know, that was the period of when the Black laws and the Jim Crow segregation laws were codified, making us supposedly second-class citizens. The AMMD Pine Grove Project was born out of the community's desire to save the historic Rosenwald School from delinquent taxes, with a vision to restoring it as an African-American museum and cultural center serving Cumberland County and the Commonwealth of Virginia. A month after AMMD Family Association organized around that vision, we received a letter from Green Ridge Recycling and Disposal, LLC, of a series of public hearings before the County Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors for approval of a mega landfill in the midst of our beloved community. Our motto is protecting environment and history and expanding community. And so here we were, saving our school, and at an intersectionality between environmental racism and historic racism, institutionalized racism, systematic racism, which caused Pine Grove School to be built in the first place. It was due to those Black codes and the Jim Crow segregation laws. So we are being forced to protect our heritage. At that time, the 101-year-old Pine Grove School and the land which sustained our people for generations. Our families were farmers, which meant they depended on the land to provide sustenance and income to sustain their families. Black farmers were premier conservationists. Nothing was wasted. Manure was used for fertilizer and crops were rotated so as not to deplete the nutrients in the earth. Rainwater was collected in barrels for livestock. So this notion of respecting Mother Earth is not new to us, which is why we are so adamant that a landfill shall not be built in our beloved community. We began to speak out and to galvanize the community of lifelong residents, former students, activists, and organizations with like vision to let our opposition be known. In August 2018, a member of CCLA, Cumberland County Landfill Alert, was able to get State Delegate McQuinn, Dolores McQuinn, who had sponsored a bill to protect enslaved cemeteries, to visit the Pine Grove community. We walked through the Green Ridge property behind the school. I mean, Green Ridge is a wraparound dump. They're in front of us and they wrap around to one side of us, to the south of us, and also behind us. We walked the property and we found some graves back there. We later came to find out that there are 22 graves that are marked by fieldstone. And we are certain that they are graves of enslaved people because that entire area was once a plantation owned by the Flippin family, the very family that owned my AG ancestors. To this day, I don't know where my great-great-grandparents, Jack and Miranda AG, are buried. Green Ridge was forced after that to at least acknowledge that the graves were there. That was followed by a hugely successful community cleanup campaign, which drew the community together and gave everyone a sense of the historic significance of the Pine Grove School. In November 2018, Gustavo Angeles helped us organize as the Pine Grove, AMMD Pine Grove Project, and we began holding monthly meetings at the school to share information about the school and to build camaraderie in the community. We continued to hold monthly meetings until COVID-19 prohibited such gatherings. So we pivoted to Zoom meetings. We soon realized that one weapon we had in our arsenal to fight the mega landfill was the historic resource, namely Pine Grove School. So we applied for historic landmark designation with the Department of Historic Resources. And in February 2020, Pine Grove was placed on the National Registry of Historic Places. The University of Virginia Law Clinic, led by K.L. Jaffe, learned of the plight of our school and community, and through their community engagement arm, began helping us navigate the regulations around permitting of a landfill. In May, Pine Grove School and Community was placed on the 2020 Most Endangered Places in Virginia by Preservation Virginia. And I want us all to understand something. Pine Grove is not an anomaly. Pine Grove is one of many communities in the Commonwealth of Virginia that are fighting for our very existence. We have Brown Grove in Ashland, Charles City, Henrico. There are two major landfills in Henrico County. And it is not by accident that all of them are located in predominantly African-American and poor communities. They really do think that we're going to roll over and play dead. But I came up during the Civil Rights Movement at Virginia State College in Petersburg, Virginia, under the tutelage of so many of the civil rights gurus who would come to our campus and organize us and teach us and train us how to be advocates for ourselves, how to peacefully protest the injustices that we were experiencing. So we're currently participating in a massive letter writing campaign, as has been said before, to the Army Corps of Engineers. And to that end, on Saturday, we sponsored a drive-up help station. What happened was that the notice of the open comment period was placed on a website. Well, Cumberland County is a technology desert. They had no way, the residents had no way of knowing that this was, this opportunity was even available to them. So we circumvented it and we went to Cumberland Saturday and armed with templates, letter templates, and computers and everything else so that we could allow the community to speak, to have its voice heard. And by the end of the day, we had logged 34 letters to the Army Corps of Engineers because we went to the community. So we beg you, implore you to please join us in this effort.
Well, thank you, Muriel. And you've not only given us the history of Pine Grove, the history of Cumberland County, but you've given us what the situation is today. And certainly your community is, when you fight for freedom, we will let you know you're not gonna fight for freedom by yourself. We're here to help you, to stand with you in solidarity and to build a national movement to focus on saving the quality of life, the quality of the land, the quality of the water, the quality of the people that live in Pine Grove. So thank you for your testimony. Thank you for the information that you shared with us. And people all over the nation are listening via the internet to this town hall. So thank you very much.
Thank you for this great opportunity
Yes, ma'am.
to speak.
So now we go to the chair of the Cumberland County Landfill Alert, Betty Myers.
Thank you. I appreciate very much you inviting CCLA to join y'all this evening. Our group was formed in 2018. The purpose of our group is to oppose the mega landfill here in Cumberland County. And we work closely with AMMD. We know Muriel quite well and her group. We set out, like I said, to oppose the mega landfill. We felt like our Board of Supervisors here passed this bill or signed a host agreement in less than 35 days. They didn't do due diligence. They weren't transparent with what they were doing. I think Green Ridge and our County Board of Supervisors felt like they were dealing with a group of country bumpkins. And I think between AMMD and CCLA, we have let them know that we're not country bumpkins. We're going to fight, and we're going to fight to the bitter end. And we don't see that they win until they put the first piece of trash in the dump, and it's not going to happen. So we work very closely with our attorney, who's working with UVA Law Clinic and this other environment legal group. We, like AMMD, are also working on the campaign to get people to send letters into the Army Corps of Engineers. We are asking the people that write the letters to address two issues for us that we feel are key. Number one is to require the Army Corps of Engineers to have public meetings so we all can express our opinions. And number two, for the Army Corps of Engineers to insist upon Green Ridge completing a environmental impact study. Both of these will help slow down the process, and it will cost Green Ridge additional money. So those are two key factors. Anything we can do to slow down this process is advantageous to us. We do feel like our group is being fairly successful because Green Ridge's intent was initially to file their notice of intent with the DEQ back in November, December of 2018. They were not able or did not file that notice of intent until January of 2020. Since that time, that notice of intent still has not been approved by the Virginia DEQ. They have, DEQ has some concerns that has not been addressed by Green Ridge. And we've been told by the people at DEQ they can't do anything with the solid waste permit until that notice of intent is approved. In addition to that, the Green Ridge people have gone in and they have filed for their water permit with the Army Corps of Engineers. We are working, like I said, very closely with our legal attorney. We also have specialists that are working with us, and we are coming up with various points that are very major stumbling blocks in this issue. So we have specialists looking into that. We have prioritized what our concerns are. Naturally, number one is the environmental justice issue. Number two is the water, both the surface and groundwater. The wetlands, we don't feel like this group should be able to take our wetlands, which filters our water for our private wells, and just arbitrarily say, okay, that one's gone, we're going to close that. We're looking at the seismic effect on the ground, and we're just looking at the traffic and various issues. We have various people within our group organized and looking at all these issues. And right now we're in the process of working on a comment to the Army Corps of Engineers from the CCLA. So one of our mottos is we're fighting to protect our environment. And that's key because so many of the people here in Cumberland County are dependent on private wells, and we need that water to protect ourselves, our future generations, our wildlife, our plants. And so we look forward to any support anybody can give us. And we firmly believe that there's strength and unity in we're united to fight.
Well, thank you so much, Betty. And please let all the people know in Cumberland County that there are thousands and thousands of people around the country, across the state of Virginia. I'm in Washington, D.C., and we're going to do everything that we can to protect your environment, protect the people who live there, and protect our future, because this is just not about today. This is also about the future. And from everything that's been described,
Right.
the terrain there in Cumberland County, particularly in Pine Grove, is some of the most fertile, some of the best preserved land, and we don't want any landfills to disturb what God has put in place. So we're going to be with you, okay?
Okay. One other
Thank you.
key thing that our group is doing, we're very much encouraging our Cumberland County residents and other residents, especially from Powhatan County, to attend the Cumberland County Board of Supervisors
All
meeting.
right.
Because by attending those meetings, we stay alert to what's going on in the county.
Exactly. So we're going to attend those meetings. We're also going to get in touch with the Army Corps of Engineers, state officials, federal officials, grassroots officials. We've had a great town hall. We've heard from the Black Women's Health Imperative. We've heard from the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. We've heard from the Frederick Douglass Organization, the Virginia chapter, with Brother J.R. Gurley. And we've heard from the Sierra Club. We've heard from the A.G. Miller, Mayo, Dungy, Pine Grove Project, and we've just heard from the Cumberland County Landfill Alert. I'm Benjamin F. Chavis, Jr. It's been my honor and a pleasure to be your moderator tonight. I'm going to ask Brother J.R. Gurley to hold down the question and answer period. We've got a lot of, over 20-some people have sent in messages, and I think some people want to make sure that we get the op-eds that recently been written in Virginia papers, and recently, the last 48 hours, the Washington Post has also have an op-ed that I wrote about the situation in Cumberland County. So we've got some great information. Now we got to take the information, brothers and sisters, that we've heard tonight and utilize it. Show up at those meetings. Show up, and write some letters, sign the petitions, pass this on. People are asking, has this been recorded? Yes, it's been recorded. We're going to post this on our social media sites, all the content. And so I know there's some questions. So Brother Gurley, thank you so much for taking over. And when you conclude with the question and answer period, we can close out. But I just want to say this as a final word before I sign off. I'm honored to be in all of your midst. It makes me know that what we struggled for 30, 40, 50, even 60 years ago is not in vain. The struggle for freedom, justice, and equality is still alive. The legacy of Frederick Douglass is still alive. The legacy of Martin Luther King Jr. is still alive. Fannie Lou Hamer, Rosa Parks, still alive. We got work to do. Freedom is a constant struggle. God bless you all. Brother Gurley, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Chavis. Again, it was just a great honor to be sharing a platform with you, although Zoom, but still a great honor as well. At this time, as Dr. Chavis has stated, we're going to open it up to some Q&A. And if you look down toward the bottom of your Zoom screen, there should be an icon that's designated for Q&A. And hopefully, with all of the panelists gathered here together, as we see those questions pop up, I'll present them to myself and the panelists, and we're going to attempt to answer any questions that you have. I want to encourage everyone here today to please sign that the change.org petition, and we'll also include that link as well. Please sign that petition. Please, other links have been shared in the general chat, where you'll be able to help out, to volunteer for the other organizational efforts that we have going on to stop this mega landfill. So at this time, let me see, I guess I should check the chat as well. I was specifically looking for questions in the question and answer, the Q&A tab. And at this point, we don't have any questions yet. So if you're out there, and you have a question, just let us know. Again, I'm going to, you know, in this post-COVID-19 age, you know, we're zooming in and out of everywhere. And so I know that Zoom is very particular, and I'd post a link myself, but I hesitate to switch screens. Oh, here we go. So we just had a first question, and Betty, I think Mrs. Myers, thank you for sharing the information that you just shared. And I think this is actually a question that will probably be best suited for you. Someone, I believe it's Crystal Schools, is asking about the current status of the mega landfill, the dump. Is there any information you can provide us?
Well, we feel like right now that between AMMD and CCLA that we are holding off the wolves, so to speak. Like I mentioned earlier, their goal was to have their notice of intent approved back in 2018, and they didn't file it until January of 2020. So right now they're falling about 2 years behind where they anticipated being. And we keep throwing roadblocks in their way. And I would say that right now we're holding them off. And we feel good about that. I think we'll be successful.
Absolutely, and I liked, as you pointed out earlier too, that you know, by using this process, forcing them to do their due diligence, they're going to have to spend out of their pocket, and they need to take the time to go through these processes, which again will consume that time from them, and would be advantageous for our cause. And thank you very much for pointing that out.
Right. And you know, we just continue, you know, Mural's group and our group found the graves, and so that was a stumbling block, because if we wouldn't have brought that to anybody's attention, Green Ridge would have just covered them over, did whatever, and we wouldn't know about them today. So there's a lot of things going on. And if you look at what documents they've already presented to the DEQ, for instance, like the solid waste management, there's discrepancies between what they put in their solid waste management application and what they have submitted to the Army Corps of Engineers. So, you know, there's a lot of discrepancies, and we just don't feel that it's a truthful group. And we just have to watch them very closely.
Absolutely. And some other speakers pointed out as well that, you know, actually, I think it was you who said they took us for a bunch of country bumpkins. I'm sorry, I chuckled at that. And you're exactly right. It's fantastic that that we provide the accountability that both the project, the landfill project, and the Cumberland Board of Supervisors needs. Okay, so we have.
May I also speak to that?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Go.
The other thing is, when they first had the first hearing, and we appeared before the Planning Commission at that time, they had not done their due diligence about the grave sites. When I asked that question, they gave me a blank look. So that has been a very profitable area to fight, because now this preservation of Black cemeteries is a national movement. So there's some things that they have to do. There's some statutes that they have to consider before they move forward.
Absolutely, Mrs. Branch. And while I have you on, I understand that the question and answer tab is not functioning correctly. So people are in fact posting their questions to the chat list. So let me just pull something out. I believe Michael Scales pointed out, and you may have already spoke to this, Miss Branch, and you may have already spoke to it also, Mrs. Myers, but the fact that the Green Ridge company did not even bother to investigate, as Michael points out, prior to buying the lands and such, the points are being raised by both the AMMD, Pine Grove Project, and the CCLA, and he would like to hear anything that you have, Mrs. Branch and Mrs. Myers, pertaining to that point.
Well, they really didn't look at it. There's no indications that they did any really qualitative analysis of where they were. It's our understanding from information that we received that the landfill site was once considered for a reservoir,
Mhm.
and that it was turned down to be used as a reservoir because there was too much water on it. So, you know, Green Ridge really didn't do anything. Whenever this all came about, there was some wooded area along Pine Grove Road up for sale, and I think that was one of the key factors that played into them coming into this. It should also be noted that Green Ridge, this is their first landfill that they built. So they're relying very heavily on county waste and GFL out of Canada.
Wow.
And the other thing I like to make mention of is with the efforts of AMMD and CCLA, we probably have played a major influence on our state legislators. There's 2 bills being carried forward to the 2021 session, one in the Senate and one in the House,
Okay.
concerning landfills and salt waste management.
Okay. Thank
And
you.
a major study, I understand, is underway about the solid waste management and that whole issue of need for another landfill in Virginia.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mrs. Branch. Let me dive into, once again, there's a question here in the general chat. This is from Lynn Godfrey. Let's see. It says, oh, Miss Lynn, sorry. This question is to the Cumberland residents. Did or did not the Cumberland Planning Commission approve this project, but the county board did? And I'm not sure if that is, did the Cumberland County Planning Commission, who approved this? I guess the best question is to, who approved this?
The Cumberland County Board of Supervisors.
Cumberland County Board of Supervisors. Okay.
It did go before the Planning Commission, and the
Mhm.
Planning Commission actually had some questions, and ultimately the Board of Supervisors overrode the questions, and so went up the Planning Commission, and the Board of Supervisors approved it.
Gotcha. Okay. Absolutely. And that's actually what I have here as well. So yes, that is actually absolutely correct. Let me read this question for you. Someone pointed out, Mrs. Geraldine Tavernier, they pointed out that the State Water Board is also taking comments until the 21st of this month about their part in the permitting of the proposed landfill. Here is another question. It says, let's see. Proposed site size has changed due to wetlands. This is something that Mrs. Schools, Crystal Schools, is pointing out. The site's size has changed due to wetlands. This, in my opinion, validates the point that the land was not properly investigated prior to approval. Mrs. Crystal Schools, or I would agree with you wholeheartedly. It seems like they just pretty much came in, bought up the land with no investigative work, and now they're pretty much reeling from and having to rearrange their plans because of the things that were not taken into consideration for lack of their research.
And they did an archaeological study, but it was not conclusive. It did not look at the cultural landscape, as particularly of Black Americans in the community. And so that they need to go back to the drawing board on that one too.
Okay, absolutely, I would agree. Let's see, I'm looking for new questions here. I apologize if I do not do your name diligence in my pronunciation, but Mr. or Mrs. Lakshmi Fjord stated that the historical cultural report did not work with anyone local. And someone is also, Mrs. Finley Brook is also asking for a link about the water board. Yeah, I'm actually looking for that now. I just pulled out a different device because I wanted to validate that comment and also provide a link if I can find one. But if anybody else finds a link to the water board, taking comments, questions until the 21st this month, please feel free to post that into the comments here. All right, so still waiting on any more questions. If you have any questions that you'd like our panelists to answer, please ask at this time. Also, while we're waiting for more questions, again, I cannot stress enough, please sign the change.org petition. The petition, we'll place the link here. I think we've already done it, but we'll do it again. And also, if you would like to get involved, someone asked a question earlier about how to get involved. You can write letters to the Army Corps of Engineers, and this is Mrs. Sonia Branch Wilson also included this. But you can, in fact, write letters to the Army Corps of Engineers stressing your concerns and any information that you have as well to them. There's a link already inside of this chat window. And also, again, signing the change.org petition. Are there any more questions? I'm going to scan the chat list one more time for any new questions. Okay. All right. Then, without there being any additional questions, I want to make sure I covered every question that is written here. If you've asked a question that was not covered, please let me know so now inside the chat box here. Mrs. Branch, someone just included a question for you. And the question states, how does Mrs. Branch feel that this mega landfill would impact the cultural and historical makeup of the Pine Grove community? And actually, listening to you talk, Mrs. Branch, I mean, you're a compendium of fascinating historical information, and I think that shines an entirely different light on what we're trying to accomplish here, knowing that background. But how would the landfill, from your viewpoint, impact the cultural and historical makeup of this Pine Grove community?
Let's begin with the grave sites.
Mm-hmm.
We have identified Dr. Lakshmi Ford and I worked together on a preliminary information form for Rural Historic District for the Pine Grove community. And we identified, along with my daughter Sonia Branch Wilson and others, at least 50 historic, Black historic cultural resources on the landscape. And so it means that our community, those things would be lost. Those things would be buried forever. They would bulldoze our ancestors, you know, and put trash on the graves of our ancestors. The noise in a tranquil community like Pine Grove would be unbearable. The odor, when we're accustomed to pristine air and pristine water. We used to play in Muddy Creek on our way to and from Pine Grove School. I walked 3.5 miles to school. And we used to play in that creek. You could drink out of the water out of that creek. Mm-hmm. And so those are the kinds of things that would just, oh, I forgot one. They are planning to reroute 654 Pine Grove Road which goes right past our school. And if they do that, then here again, they're cutting us off. That road runs from Route 60, Anderson Highway, to 616. And it was the corridor for our community. It connected us. And for them to propose that it be rerouted is just a non-starter. And so we're fighting that. You know, have to go around the school, rewrite traffic around the school. No, we don't want traffic to be rerouted. We have been using that road since 1916 and before. And we don't want to reroute it because of a dump. What would visitors think to our vision of establishing a museum and cultural center if they are seeing a mountain of trash across the street from us? We're talking how much, 200 and some feet or more of trash.
Yeah.
And while they have compressed it a little bit, as far as the land mass they claim of the landfill, that means that the trash is just going to be higher and more unsightly.
Absolutely.
And what it's going to do for the well water, all of the residents in that community are on well water. So the contaminants are going to seep into the well water. So it's just going to be devastating to both the environmental integrity of our community and the historic integrity of our community.
Absolutely. I just wanted to add to that, reportedly, you know, there are 44 private drinking wells within 500 feet of the proposed mega landfill site. I personally think that's preposterous that they would even consider that. Dr. Metzler asked a question, and maybe Mrs. Myers or anyone else would like to answer this question. But Dr. Metzler asks, what can we do to help write letters for this comment period?
Dr. Gurley, this is Lynn Godfrey. The Sierra Club we just ran just now, that just happened. We ran a petition alert. That would be the quickest and easiest way to get the comments to the Army Corps engineer, because once you fill in that comments, then that link will go directly to them. So that would be the easiest and most efficient way with the time, restraints, because it is due the 21st, which is Wednesday. So Dr. Finley Brook has put that in her in the chat here. Okay. So I really, 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 really admonish you to do that strategically and tactically. That is the most important thing we can do right now. At this moment between now and Wednesday, we need to get those comments to the Army Corps engineer. So the Sierra Club has just did an action alert. It is in here. Please get it out to your networks. Once you fill it out and hit submit, it's going to go to the Army Corps. So that's going to be the most efficient way. You don't have to worry about writing a whole lot of things. You can add your personal information with all of the points that were brought up tonight, but the form is already ready for you to fill out and submit. And I will ask everybody here to please get that to your networks so people can submit those comments by the 21st. So that is what we can do to help between now and Wednesday. The most, realistic thing and practical thing we can do right now between now and Wednesday, because the deadline for the comments is Wednesday.
Absolutely. And I would furthermore, ask, I'm sorry, go ahead, Ms. Myers.
Yeah, if I could add to that, as people are sending in comments to the Army Corps of Engineers, you probably ought to send a copy of it to the DEQ, to the Water Board, to your senators, to your delegates, anybody else you can think of, and keep them informed about This does not need to happen. This does not need to happen to our community for a lot of different reasons.
And while we have you on, the last question was directed toward you, Mrs. Myers. That how do you feel that this mega landfill would impact specifically the health and environmental aspects of the Pine Grove community and the Cumberland County itself, both of them being historically impoverished?
I think it would adversely affect the county and the Pine Grove area. A couple of things people need to take into consideration. We've talked about the reduction in size of the landfill, but they want to keep their tonnage the same at 5,000 tons a day. If you look at what happens with landfill and what people promises the benefits will be from having a landfill, those never become true. So what I see would happen is that if the landfill would ruin our environment here, and it wouldn't help us out financially wise. It would probably hinder us more than help us.
Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. Again, before we close out this Zoom, I just encourage those of you who are at a computer to copy all of those links. As a former, I've worked on several different campaigns, marketing campaigns as well. We believe in what's called retail campaigns. Basically, we get all this information out to our friends. So please post it on your Facebooks, your Twitters, your Instagrams, and invite your friends, your church friends, your knit and crochet group, or whoever you play cards with, so on and so forth. Invite them to become active. When they say that when the people fear the government, there's tyranny, but when the government fears the people, because they come together doing what we're doing right now, that's called liberty. And so with that, I want to thank everyone tonight for their participation. Ms. Branch, were you going to say something?
Frederick Douglass also said, agitate, agitate, agitate.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And so with that being said, again, my name is J.R. Gurley. I'm the Virginia president of the Frederick Douglass Foundation. We're devoted Christians, proud Americans, active Republicans, or excuse me, active conservatives, and I want to close us out in prayer. And so in doing that, I want to thank everybody for their time. Please keep your emails, or keep watching your emails and other things that we'll be sending out. We may have to do this again. We may do it on a bigger scale. I'm not sure what is going to come up next, but just please stay tuned. Again, thank you everyone for your participation. And I'm just going to pray, God, we just thank you for this meeting tonight, the meeting of minds, the meeting of concerned citizens and organizations who may not even have normally been in association, but we've come together for this community, to help this community. And Lord, we just call upon you and your intervention. We ask you for divine strategies. We ask you for your divine protection in our efforts to stop this blight from invading our community. And we thank you in advance for what it is you're about to do on our behalf. And it's in Christ's most holy and precious name we pray. Amen and amen. Thank you all. Please take the time, a couple seconds, to copy all of those links. And again, thank you all for coming, and good night.
Good night. Thank you.